the Solution of Real Estate podcast, where myself, Phil Sexton, and
Jeff Seabach,
we come together with microphones between us to talk about the industry, to talk about what we're doing, to talk about teams, to talk about Leopard, and to talk about the top 5 takeaways that we left Inman Connect in Las Vegas with.
Yeah.
Inman Connect, one of the most popular real estate conferences in the country.
Yes. And although we went there and it felt like we didn't learn a lot new about changes in the home selling process itself. Like there's nothing that is today.
Yeah.
Right. Like there's nothing that is like, we're like, oh my God, you got to start adding this to your business. Cause there's kind of the lack of that at that meeting. There wasn't, like, when I listened to the speakers and stuff, like,
well, I think that so much of the web has helped share information of what's happening, that now these national conferences bring topical experts to the stage to talk about it at a deeper level, but it's already been introduced, like whatever it is, has already been introduced to us. Right. Like we've already seen kind of all of the stuff, but we still walk away. I don't know about you, but I still walk away with, okay, there's a little bit more clarity here on this topic. There's clearly a trend that I'm seeing here that maybe we have heard of this coming, but that totally cemented that we were on the right track with that one, or we need to make sure we pay attention to this one.
Yes. And I think the weird thing is it's more things because it's good to know where the road is going. So you put on the right tires. So you have the engine, like, so you like.
Are you giving me a car analogy right now?
Yeah, you love cars.
Yeah.
No, but the point is you got to know that why I want to get these top five things out there is because it's just, when we walk down the hall where we had 5 vendors that I couldn't say on the right and 5 vendors on the left that I couldn't say, clearly there's a lot of money influencing the industry. And unfortunately, money changes things. We cannot be remiss to say that Zillow has emerged as one of the most important influences in real estate, yet it doesn't sell a house. Right, like me. Well, they stopped selling
their own.
Okay, yes, no, but they're not. Yeah, exactly. But the point of it is that money does matter, and that's what we're going to see through all of this and how they influence it because of the changes that are about to occur. So, yeah, I don't know. Let's get after it.
All right, number 1, or should we go bottom to top? Should we do Dave Letterman style?
Okay, let's do Dave Letterman style.
All right, so these are the top 5 Dave Letterman style list. We're going to start with. Should we start with number 5?
Yes, number 5. So the thing is number 5 was there was something new.
Yes,
there was something new, and I think it was the only
an entity that sponsored the team's journey, right? Like, so they have their content split out into data track, team track, brokerage track, right? Like they do different avenues of classes and sessions that you can attend if that is what you are going to Inman for. And so the sponsor of the teams track, what was the name of that company?
Leopard.
Yes. We sponsored the teams track.
Yes,
how could I forget?
Yes.
Leopard.
We hosted 6 classes, and clearly the question was because we were adjacent to the main stage, like we had high exposure. We were on the main stage during the teams track, as teams continued to grow. But what is Leopard?
Was number 5
number 5
the
is,
most common question that we heard? What is Leopard?
Yeah, because people, I heard all kinds of, I heard someone say, are you guys trying to replace NAR?
Well, yeah, but that's our buddy Rob, who loves controversy.
Oh no, I was just somebody else.
Oh,
yeah. No, he was a tech guy in the industry, and he was like, but no, I mean, really, I think the best way that we said it was that brokerages and NAR can't point out who the best in the industry is. And Leopard is stepping up to say, here is the best in the industry that are doing the best for the consumer. And we're not afraid to brag about the best of the best because we know that the consumer needs better customer service. But yeah, brokerages and NAR, because I mean, NAR has 1.5 million members, and they can't say, here's the best 100,000 or here's the best 200,000. But that's what Leopard is coming out and saying.
Yeah, it's almost like if you look, when we look at real estate, like let's say basketball, for example. You like sports, right?
A lot.
I'm going to try to use, it's like you using a truck analogy. I'm going to try to use a basketball analogy. Right. So if realtors are everybody in the world that plays basketball, then Leopard is the NBA.
Right.
Right?
The best
of
the best.
Leopard is the best of the best agents who want to work together to improve the industry for consumers, but also want to be able to communicate with each other about what they're doing so that we can actually improve instead of all being siloed by, oh, I'm at EXP, I can only talk to EXP agents. Right. Oh, I'm at whatever, Keller Williams, I can only talk to Keller Williams agents. And so Leopard is now trying to band together these producers that are actually working with consumers so that we can have a voice of where this industry is going, because typically and historically, the brokers that run the franchisors across the country, like all of these companies that have lots of agents are the ones that have lots of influence of where the industry is going. And sometimes where they think the industry is going, which we might look at as could be self-serving at times, we say, well, what about teams that are actually working with consumers? We have a couple of different ideas of what we think are important. And that's what Leopard is trying to bring the highlight. Leopard's trying to highlight that.
Don't have a voice for changes that are coming.
Right, because even like you have state regulators that basically say, well, if you want a voice, then just become a brokerage, right? Take your team off of the off of being a team and become a broker if you want to sit at the table with the brokers.
But I think it was
okay, but we're selling 800 houses to consumers. Like we actually have a pretty good pulse of what consumers are interested in.
We're different. Yes.
So I know that there's others out there. So like our last podcast that we interviewed Mark Pattison from San Diego, like clearly a Leopard member, right? That is somebody that sells 800 houses himself. I mean, with his team, but that Mark, you look at other top producers around the country, what we're focused on pushing are things that we know NAR is never gonna, like NAR, like you said, can't highlight the best of the best agents, whereas Leopard can.
Right. I mean, because I thought it was ironic that because we had never interviewed Mark Pattison before, we met him at a comedy show, and that he said that he had a new agent training program. Right. So it's just showing, because I think the emergence.
Isn't it weird that we have a new agent?
It's not weird. Program. No, it's because the consumer should, like, when you hear, we'll go with the electrical workers, because that's the one I hear on the radio the most. They're like, our apprentice program is 4 years.
Right. And plumbers have an apprentice program as well, where you've got to go out with somebody that knows what they're doing, so that's how you learn.
Right. And that is something that Leopard was pushing for the customer service level, because it wasn't hard to get him to say, I agree, because he's already created it. But yet it's pushing this out to the masses. But because if we do push it out to the masses, we can start to rebrand realtors as doing a great job versus the scum or whatever the things, if you Google realtors are, that comes up, and thieves and bad. Like I would say we're going back to our roots with Leopard, because NAR was created to get the bad actors out, and this is just pointing out who's doing a great job and who is not. So
awesome. All right, that was number 5. Number 4, I mean, the 1 5-letter word that I have here is video. And here's why, is because as you sit there at these conferences and you see the people that are on stage, the personalities that are up there, and you do a little bit of research on them, what I found is the majority of the people that are getting highlighted as being great at their jobs, as being a real estate agent or being a team leader or being a brokerage owner or whatever, are all, it was an overwhelming majority of them had personalities on social media.
Absolutely.
And it wasn't like back in 2006, your personality on social media meant that you posted a picture or you wrote an article.
Yes.
And in 2021, your personality on social media means that you have a constantly you have a constant story.
Yeah.
You have news feed content.
Yes.
And you have interactive stories where you can see what these people are doing on the regular.
Yep.
And they clearly have teams behind them that are focused on producing and distributing videos so people can learn who they are
and getting their brand out electronically through video. Yeah. Yes. I mean, it's almost like, you know, in 2005, when I was an agent and I went to talk to a elite performer, and then I talked to another elite performer, and I talked to another elite performer, they all had assistants.
Yeah.
And I was like, before I even knew what an assistant was, I was like, I have to have one, because every successful person I talked to, same thing with database, is they had a database and they had an assistant. And I was like, oh, that is just you have to do this.
Yes.
And that's what we learned about video is no longer is it, hey, you should. Basically, if you want an expanding brand, if you want to create something that's growing, you have to lead with video, and then your personalities and your purpose in life displayed in that video, right? Yes. With them in the forefront, it was easy to find them. It was easy to see them. And why video continues to, because you know what the great thing about video is, there's so many aspects of video, right? Meaning video for the consumers, video for the consumers in the process of a transaction, videos for people inside the team, videos on neighborhoods, videos on, like, it's just, it's funny that we still have to encourage people to do more video. Like but
you see, I mean, when we came back and we were talking to our team about the video ideas that we learned, and even myself, I'm trying to take what I learned there and apply it. I'm trying to do more stories and more postings so that I give an idea of what it's like to run a team, right? And the things that we see from marketing standpoints and whatnot. And one of our team members sent me a message. She was like, she actually posted on our CVOC team chat, our private Facebook group that we have, where she posted her video of a DIY project she was doing at home with some paint on the wall. And then I was going back and forth with her a little bit, and she's like, oh man, it's hard. Videos are hard. They're time consuming. And I don't know that, like, you could remove and replace the word video there with anything new.
Yeah.
Right.
Of course.
Anything new that we want to go down.
Like, she was just giving you blow about learning anything. Like,
yes, but it's a pain in the ass. And when you start to go and you don't have momentum on your side, you're right. You're pushing a rock up a hill. Yep. Keep pushing that rock up the hill though. And it's hard to push that rock up the hill, but I tell you what, there is a downhill slope that is coming, and it's not like it's all up and then it's all down. You constantly have these up, down, where you catch your rhythm.
Yeah. I mean, the beautiful thing about video, for anyone out there that's listening, that's like, I don't know if I should do it. Let me help you out. How about this? Video yourself with the plan that you're not going to show it to anybody. Okay. Just video yourself as if you're.
So you can watch it?
Yes.
Okay.
Right. So pretend like a buyer asked you a question. So write down a question that a buyer would ask you, or write down a question that a seller would ask you, and then hit play and record yourself. And now you won't worry, because it's funny because selfies is very popular.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But video is not. Yet they're both of the same thing. But selfies is because you don't have to share it with anybody.
Yeah.
But hold on. But my point of it is that once they record what they say and they listen to it, I just want them to ask themselves, would they work with themselves? Right? Because you'll realize
that's it better.
Right. Yeah. Yes. And that's where the problem comes in. But that's the beauty of it, is because as soon as you start recording yourself, you realize that, wow, I need to improve what I say. And then oddly enough, your business gets better because you improved what you say, because you've never recorded yourself and listened to it. Because we in the listing appointment, we listen to other people talk, and then Jenny listens to it and she tells me they did good, they did bad, they did good, they did bad. Like, the reality is then we can give them feedback to help them improve it. It's a self-feedback loop.
Yeah. No, I mean, that concept of using it to train yourself is its own topic, because I mean, it's its own podcast. Yesterday, I had an agent here in the office, and he was talking to me about his open house strategies and how they weren't working. And I was like, well, let me hear what you say. That's what it sounded like. He didn't have a recording of what he said. I'm like, next time somebody walks into your open house, why don't you push record, put your phone in your pocket, interact with them, so that then you can come in here and say, listen to what I said. Not a video, even though it kind of is a video.
Agreed.
Right? It's an audio recording to help. I mean, video totally helps get better. It helps you get better.
Oh, dude. I mean, the recording of what you do, and then I love the video because if you record your video, you see your face, like
oh, I don't want to see my face.
Well, no, like
I don't even want to listen to my voice.
No. So, like, ask me a question about a spud item.
Hey, Jeff, should I disclose the water leak that was underneath my sink in 91?
Like that, but just that alone,
the pain that I saw on your face,
right, makes you seem uncertain, and then makes you not seem like a professional, and then you lose the listing appointment because of your. They don't even realize that they're making faces when people ask them questions.
So you're saying they should make a video of them answering the question?
Well, no, but my point is just that video can help you learn how to get better.
Right.
That's all.
All right.
Video can. I'm just trying to get them. I'm just trying to get it, because if they start recording themselves, then they'll realize that they just have to then send that out.
Yes, they have to just forget about making it perfect and get it out the door.
Because the hardest part of video is getting the first one done. And that's why, typically I'm like, record it, pretend like you're not going to send it out. But if it's great, then just send it out. Right? Like,
yeah.
All right. Good deal. All right. Oh, number 3, Phil.
Number 3, IDX gets blasted. Like by a player that has big guns.
Well, I mean, using your NBA analogy, if LeBron James says something,
everybody hears.
Everybody hears. The ESPN picks it up. Every news channel.
Yeah. So who's the real estate's version of LeBron James?
I would say his name is Andy Florance.
Andy Florance, the CEO of CoStar.
Right. Only because
CoStar, the company that bought homes.com and that bought homesnap.com and that has put Zillow in its crosshairs of trying to be a competitor.
Right. But why it's on this podcast is you probably wouldn't have guessed that. You would have guessed that I would have said Rich Barton.
The CEO of Zillow.
Right.
Co-founder of Zillow.
Co-founder of Zillow. But Andy Florance's company makes money regularly. And they have purchased HomeSnap and homes.com. So they're officially in the space.
In the residential space.
Right. Like
they have historically only been in the commercial space. Now they're going to take what they did in the commercial space and running a profitable business and are applying it to the residential space.
Right. But that may not be a company that, if you sold real estate, residential real estate in the last 20 years, is not one that's been on your radar unless you know a friend or a client that's buying commercial space and you're familiar with LoopNet. Right. And LoopNet is a free service to the consumer, which oddly enough goes in line with where the DOJ is talking about redoing it, because the DOJ has said that they don't like that MLS data is private, right? So they already have a public. So, but bigger is more of, it's, I don't know if it's because essentially him blasting IDX,
which I want to explain,
is a much bigger explosion because of how much it affected. So explain it.
So what Andy is talking about doing, before he even says what he's going to do, he describes the existing system. And the way he describes the existing system of IDX, meaning an agent puts he takes it, instead of talking about it in the digital world, he takes it offline and he goes, let's just say that you are a listing agent and you have a nice conversation with the client, the seller, they sign the agreement, they're going to list with you, and you go out to their front yard and you put your post with your sign in the ground in their front yard so that everybody can know that this house is for sale. Well, what if a van pulled up? And he said that the name of the van company was probably something like Ziltor. Right? Yeah. Ziltor. Let's say that a van from the Ziltor company pulls up and they spray paint your name on the sign, and they spray paint your phone number on the sign. And instead they staple a little business card to the bottom of your sign. So technically it has the information, your information, so that you're legal. But then they pound another agent's sign in the ground next to it so that they can help their agents get the calls and the inquiries, and consumers don't see you anymore. That's IDX.
He said, because when he said that they're hijacking listings is what he said.
Yeah.
That's why we're calling blasted. Blasted is
IDX.
Or IDX is hijacking listings.
Because you can go to coldwellbanker.com.
He said no other business that he's aware of, and I agree. Do we let other people, take over? Like, if you're going to go sell something on OfferUp, right? Like, we don't let the calls go to somebody else and then come to you. Like he said, it's just so strange that we are in an industry, even though half the industry still, I heard in another meeting there where they were laughing at his approach, saying, well, because he was positioning it against Ziltor, right? Like company, but the reality is all the other brokerages are doing the same. Like this is the cornerstone. I don't know if it's the cornerstone of MLS, but
no, it's what has happened. It's when IDX got approved, first of all, and started to become the norm. Listing agents just started to accept the fact that to get more publicity on their listings. How it was
pitched to us. Yes.
No, well, originally it was pitched like, hey, this is great. You can get more publicity on these listings. Look, enable IDX, and then that listing is going to show up on everybody's real estate website.
Just at that time, it actually was, because there was no
and that was great.
Yes.
But then what has happened is the buyer leads to the listing agent has gone down, has continued to reduce and reduce and reduce as the popularity of these IDX sites has gotten larger and larger and larger. And as these IDX sites have gotten better at capturing those leads and giving them to their own agents rather than the listing agent whose property that they were inquiring on. So the fact that all of the like Zillow, Realtor.com, Coldwell Banker, Remax, whatever, Cboc.com, we have all of the houses that are for sale or under contract that have sold in a neighborhood because of IDX. But at no point on those listings do we say, and here's the listing agent's contact information if you would reach out, if you'd like to reach out to them. No, we're trying to do it to generate business for us. And it's interesting how
it's amazing because the support for it still remains very large, and it just has introduced the idea that there's some cracks in our system. And now there's an official debate,
right,
because of this, right? So
fair, but the cracks in our system, which we saw, is why we came out with our digs.
We were but the problem was we were in the G League.
We mean we didn't have a $40 billion market cap to roll our digs out.
Right. We're bootstrapping Leopard. And
our digs.
All right, that's why I made the analogy, because we said LeBron James is him, and LeBron James makes $40 million a year, and we don't. And we're bootstrapping it like the guys do in the G League, right? Like because we can say it all day. We were saying this.
You mean the G League? They have to buy their own shoes.
Yes, they have to buy their own shoes. They have to. Yes.
LeBron doesn't have to buy his own shoes anymore.
I don't even know if he buy. I mean, anything, right? Like
the basketball related. I assume it's free.
Agreed. Yeah.
All right.
But the idea that, is it a good idea to let others profit from our listings, even if it gets more traffic, is an interesting debate. And Andy clearly came out and said,
it's wrong.
It's wrong.
It's ethically, IDX is ethically wrong.
Yeah. It's funny,
but he's not the piece about him that I think is very calculated is he doesn't actually say IDX. He says Zillow. He has picked that one opponent, even though the concept that he describes of what Zillow is doing is actually IDX, is actually not just Zillow. It is everybody that has IDX on their website.
Well, no one would say that Andy Florance is a non-calculated dumb guy.
Right. Because if he comes out and says, I'm anti-Zillow, then all the realtors who are also anti-Zillow are going to support him. If he comes out and says, I'm anti-IDX, then people are like, wait, what?
Yeah, no, agreed. I mean, it was, well, I mean,
come on, Andy, come on our podcast if you're listening, and let's talk about what
he took the company that leveraged it the most and created a business model to succeed off of winning the online war. The top two is who he attacked with Ziltor, right? Like assuming that he was not just picking on Zillow, he was also picking on Realtor because that was the other half of the Ziltor.
But he very infrequently talks about Realtor.com.
Well,
clearly the article that he interviewed with Brad from months ago, he talks about Zillow being unethical, right? Like that business model. I mean, but IDX gets blasted. And I think it's interesting, not that IDX and the DOJ and the NAR conversations about buyer agent commissions and whatnot, like I feel like there's a few items that are pretty significant that could change in the next 3 to 5 years.
Yes, no, it is clear we are we're on the precipice of change, and it's why we're going through. This is a big one because
number 2.
Yeah.
Number 2. So we did 5, we did 4, we did 3. Number 2.
Right. The changes keep a rolling.
The changes keep a rolling?
Yes.
I have Teamerage.
Yeah, I think this one is just team influence expands and starting to really get the eye of the money out there. That the teams may be replacing the brokerage yet because the old model still it's broker agent. So now we're seeing a mix, right? So now we're seeing this blended, like it because
it used to
as soon as you grow, they push you to be a brokerage. And now we have this team that doesn't really let's talk about, go ahead.
It used to be broker and agent.
Right.
And then what happened is the agents that started to do more business created teams. So then it became broker, team, and agent. And now the teams are having so much influence over the agents at their company, they kind of look like brokerages. And so they're being pushed into this become a brokerage world. And they got rebranded to Teamerages. Teamerages? It's hard for me to even say.
Teamerage.
But the point is that these boutique, it's like a resurgence of the boutique broker, right? Where you have these small companies, it's a boutique brokerage, but it is really just their team, right? Has become an independent broker.
And why I say it attracts money is because, right? So now we got a broker that says all of the other brokers are taking a bigger chunk of the pie than they deserve.
I'm talking about side.
I'm talking about side. I'm talking about Guy Gal comes up on stage and he says, I'll tell you what, I will tell you right after this commercial break.
Okay, quick commercial.
Have you noticed that the industry talks about raising the bar, but no one has done anything? Agents are being mass produced without any training standards. If you're ready to raise the bar and increase the level of professionalism amongst new agents, visit realestateLeopard.com to pledge your support and join hundreds of others who seek change within the industry.
Thank you guys for hanging out. Thank you. All right.
Okay.
The cliffhanger.
Yeah. So Guy Gal created a brokerage that, because this is why we named this one Team Influence Expands, is because teams are not being served, obviously, in the old model because there wasn't a place for them. It was broker agent. So now, some of them have leaned in more. Which is like Keller Williams has leaned in more and EXP has leaned in more. But we've done a podcast in the past that said brokers think that teams are a parasite. But then we saw no, the teams are the ones that are side came out and said, no. It's the teams are actually serving the consumer well. Teams are actually who the consumer wants to work with. So I'm going to build a brokerage that's silent, but then I'm going to provide tools to the brokerage.
So side Guy said that they were the invisible brokerage.
Invisible brokerage.
Right? Because what they do is they are the back office, and maybe we can get Guy to come on our podcast, actually. Lena, let's reach out to Guy and let's ask him a few more questions about Side. But I think it's interesting that Side, if you look up like in a market that they're in, you can't just Google Side Realty and find all of their agents, because they create
pretty cool business model.
They
right?
create mini independent brokerages, even though they appear to be independent brokerages. They're boutique brokerage models, but they're technically connected by their back end. So they're on this Side network, even though the consumer brand would be, for us in this example, the Seabach team, it would be its own brokerage powered by Side.
Essentially a Teamerage.
Correct.
Yes.
A platform to have Teamerages.
Right, because Teamerage, just to make sure that the definition is close, is when a team grows to, let's say, 30, 40, 50 agents, 100 agents, whatever it is, but probably once you get to the 200 transactions or 300 transactions, they now become large enough where they can save money. Because, what do we have? 2 or 3 brokers on our team already? Right. Like, so the idea, because the mass amount of every team already has a broker on their team typically, because someone at the point got the licensing, and because it's not hard, you just take the classes, and I could take the classes, and I just choose not to pay the fee because I don't think.
I'm just trying to get back to the point you're trying to make here, is that as teams grow and become and have brokers on staff, they should become brokerages?
No, they have the dilemma of, do I go to a team-focused company
like EXP,
or do I leave and start my own?
Which is one of the most common questions we got when we joined EXP was, why didn't you guys start your own?
Yes.
Like, well, because that's a totally different business.
Right. We looked at it as independent, where these other people are like, no, and that's where it's kind of where Side comes in and says, well, let me take that pain off your plate.
Right.
Right. Like, let me give
we'll be your compliance machine, which is what brokerages are.
But we'll actually provide you tools, is what we found is interesting. And we haven't seen those tools, and we'd like to hear from him directly. But the reality is when we, I would say we've been to 4 Inmans or 5s?
16, 17, 18, 19, 21.
5, yeah. And there was not the team influence before
that we saw.
And now we had you, and matter of fact, you emceed it.
Yeah.
Right, where it was. And the interesting thing,
can we talk about that a little bit more?
Yeah.
Just kidding.
Well, how great you were on stage. Phil was excellent, as we expected. But the interesting thought was, because this shows you our challenge with Leopard, and it shows you, because the teams, like Phil, it's funny because the old model of brokers being the most important entity in business, and now it looks like Teams is putting up a challenge that the brokers showed up, but the team leaders in large part did not show up. Why? Because they're out working. They're the ones that's the challenge of this, is teams are actually the boots on the ground people. And the way that we had to reach them was through video. Right? Because we had to record it, because there was only, if there was 2,000 people in attendance and there's 2,000 people online, most of the team people were online watching, right? Because they can't get away from their business to spend 5 days in another place. And it's, or it's hard to, because of your business may fall apart while you're gone.
I liked one of Guy's stats.
What was his stat?
He said, NAR's dirty little secret is that 70% of the houses sold are by part-time agents.
Yeah. And funny though, is our research in our area, it's even worse than that, right? Like, the reality is part-time agents are the abundance. Mm-hmm. I was saying that my research, that 87% of the transactions have one of the top 5% on either side, supports that same kind of idea that, he obviously did research that we didn't do, but
yeah, I would say that those messages are out. Isn't that the opposite message?
No,
maybe that's why we need to have him on so we can say, what did you mean by that?
No, he's saying that part-time,
part-time agents do 70% of the deals, and you're saying the top 5% does 87%. That's why I'm like, I was confused by those numbers. But I'd like to ask him, I'd like to question what he meant by that, because obviously our research that we did was the opposite here in Phoenix. And I wonder if we're an anomaly.
No, because this is why the stat is confusing, is because there's two people on each transaction, because it's an elite agent with a part-timer in every deal.
Got it. Roughly.
Yeah.
Nice.
No, it was in line because
okay. So then it is say, all right, that's great, guy, except 70% of the homes are also sold with an elite agent.
Or even more.
Because it's out of 200%, it's not out of 100%.
Correct.
So, we learned that math from another company that where 100% isn't the whole. 100%. 200% is the whole.
Well, but the reality is because it's a hard story to tell, because there's 6 million sales, but there's actually 12 million sides. Yeah. But people don't talk about 12 million sides. They talk about 6 million sales, even though there's two. Yeah. So, but as soon as something gets confusing, it gets ignored. Simple sells better than confusing.
Well, simple is certainly our number one.
Yes.
Right. Because simple is one of the reasons why Leopard even got started, was to help simplify the real estate transaction.
I mean, do you feel good coming on this podcast saying that we created Leopard and it happens to be all of the items that were the most important items?
We're not far off, man. We're not far off.
Yes.
Number one, drum roll, please.
Yeah, this may be shocking to you because it was shocking to us.
But the number one most popular topic that was in all the hallways that people wanted to engage us about the most, that we saw other tracks talk about as well, is the idea of vertical integration.
Vertical integration. Let's slow it down. Vertical means up and down.
Correct.
So
one customer can go from floor 4 to floor 3 to floor 2 to floor 1.
Right.
And that is
the residential
real estate transaction,
real estate commissions, mortgage
origination, and the fees associated with that,
title
and escrow companies.
Yep. Insurance,
absolutely. And it goes broad, and then it expands out from there. If you want to talk about moving companies, or if you want to talk about painters, if you want to talk about landscapers, it moves on from there.
Crazy.
Right. Bundle and save.
Bundle and save is what we heard. I mean, it was funny because going there, I didn't know it was going to be that loud.
Right.
It was obvious, and it was
So here's the piece that I thought was interesting, is that a lot of the planned content was whether brokerages should be offering themselves as a one-stop shop.
A question of whether they should.
Like, should Century 21 be a one-stop shop? Should fill in the brokerage name? Obviously, they're not talking to OfferPad. They're not talking to Open Door. They're not talking to Zillow. They're not talking to Rocket Homes, Rocket Mortgage. They're not talking to Loan Depot. They're not talking to Redfin, which are all companies that have already done that.
Correct.
Right? They're talking to everybody else that hasn't done that yet, saying, hey, should we be paying attention to these consumer brands that are making headway?
Well, I mean,
and the answer is yes.
And the reason why it's leading is because the reality is the consumer brands that are offering bundle and save are the ones that are leading, i.e. Zillow's going.
All of the names that we just talked about.
Redfin, I don't ever remember Rocket Mortgage having such a large presence at Inman.
No, they were clearly one of the title sponsors, like Homeward and Rocket Mortgage.
Yeah.
I
mean, it's funny, we didn't even get into the Homeward, because these are.
But I want to finish bundle and save before we leave our number one biggest point from Inman, is that when we taught a session about bundling and saving in the teams track, one of the reasons why we focus on teams being able to vertically integrate their business is because they actually are in the living rooms with consumers negotiating how much the consumer pays.
Right.
And when that person, because if eXp Realty, which is the company that we're at, they have a title company, they've got a relationship with a lender, but their relationships don't benefit the consumer any. those relationships don't benefit us, the real estate agent, any. Whereas when a team,
But that's normal in real estate because IDX doesn't benefit the listing agent.
I mean, you want to have that debate? It benefits us.
Okay, a little, right?
Right. Those that leverage it for lead generation.
Okay, good deal.
But I don't even want to go down that path.
Okay, all right.
So back to bundling and saving, when the team leader is the one who's generating when whoever's generating the consumer leads, right? The buyer leads and the seller leads, and that is meeting with those consumers, they're the ones that can control how much that consumer is charged.
Right.
And bundling and saving means you can offer to your clients the ability for them to pay less if they choose to use the services that you offer.
Right. It's why we think that the agent level, we will be most successful inside of teams, is because we can actually offer the consumer a lower total cost.
Right.
Right. Like it's actually less expensive if they use us versus
for all of those services,
right?
Versus going to the bank over there where you have to support that guy's family, and going to the title company, which has to support all of those people, and then going to the insurance company, as opposed to just using one company to do it.
Yeah. I also like the point that I heard at the conference where the consumer chooses savings even
over what realtors want them to choose.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, even though you can list your house with this, I will choose two things, because
simplicity
and
savings.
Well, I was going to say easy, but simplicity and ease. I think it was because that's actually, I would say almost ease is first in this. Because
this whole time we've been leading with, we can sell your house for more money. And now what we got to morph to is the simplest way to sell.
Well, because why is iBuying working? It's ease, is it not? It's not more money for your house. I mean,
well, I'm sorry, but we haven't even talked about the fact that Zillow left the iBuying space, and that's not what this podcast is about. But they were overpaying for houses.
Yeah, but that's just called dumb.
But it doesn't matter. They still did it. So now you were making more money by having an easier transaction as a seller. Like it was messed up, obviously.
Clearly.
But they could pick the simple path of not listing, and they still got more money.
They can't make it simple.
They can't sustain the simplicity. Agreed.
Right. Like
they can't sustain let's pay them more money than they could get when they go onto the market.
Well, it's just their business model and versus what the environment has proven, and shocking to me, honestly, because I would have guessed that Zillow would have continued. I mean, now the podcast has come out and their stock has dropped massively. So it's showing cracks in their approach. But I think it's because the consumer still wants it to be easier. And if I can save money and it's easier, like, to me, that's a double win for them. But why we need to push this to agents is we have to make it easier. Right? Like when you look at Open Door and OfferPad buying the house, it's pretty easy.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I mean, it's, I own a house and I was like, do I really care about the $5,000 or $10,000 difference, or do I just want to take that one and get rid of it because it's a headache? Yeah, I can see people making that decision. I mean, they even choose no representation, yet we're trying to force represent. It's really putting pressure on the system because there's nobody fighting for. And now we're seeing the Betters and these other companies, even Homeward's offering bundle and save. Zillow's offering bundle. I mean,
everybody is trying to make it easier and cheaper for the consumer. And teams aren't going to get left in the dust on this. Teams are going to help lead this. And it's we have options. The research that we have done and trying to figure this out for us has led to a dozen conversations after the fact where other team leaders across the country are like, hey, Phil, hey, Jeff, how did you figure this piece out? I wasn't able to figure that piece out. Where we're talking to guys from Texas to Wisconsin to the East Coast on what we can do together, right? Leopard, let's work together to figure out how we can bundle and save so that the consumer gets a better, cheaper, faster experience.
We don't have the money that these other companies have raised, right? They have raised lots of money, so they get lots of good input. And the way we're going to get good input is by banding together across the country to figure out how can we figure this out the best, so that we can all then offer that so that we can stay in front of the consumer.
Yeah. And with our budget, we get to do a free podcast. Thank you guys for listening.
Yes.
And with their budget, they get to do Super Bowl commercials.
Yeah.
I think we're going to win.
No, but it's why we have to band together across the country, is because we have to start to build a force and that we have an actual influence so that we can help each other find the best mode out there.
If you have made it to this point of our podcast, please share it. Let other people know that we're trying to have conversations around this topic, that there's a group of agents that care about consumers, that want to work together to figure out how we make real changes in this industry. Let your friends, let the top producers in your office know about this, and let's have more conversations around it.
Right. And as a conclusion, it was just, as we're going through this, it feels like more change is coming than in past years. Like it feels that it's getting.
Well, when Brad opened the conference with the comments about the millions, hundreds of millions, and possible billions of dollars that are being pumped into technology platforms made to augment the real estate transaction, right? Like the prop tech, and the billions of dollars that are being pumped into prop tech, guess what that's going to create? Change.
Yeah.
The amount of money in the system plus the regulatory entities that are going on is going to create change.
Can you feel bad for billionaires?
Can you feel bad for billionaires?
Yes.
I'm sure.
Well, because the one thing that,
like when you see them on stage and their flies unzipped and you're like, fuck, I feel bad for that
happens
guy.
to me too. I was more of, unfortunately,
like they get stung by a bee and they're allergic, so like they swell up really big. I feel bad for that guy.
Keep guessing. Yeah, keep talking. All right. So no, I was talking to the point of, I feel that we haven't gotten to the next iteration. So the question is are they?
Oh, of course not.
Right.
You mean the great washout when the bottom falls out of this thing?
Yes.
What lives?
Right. Yeah. Because I'm like, you're building it for the old system, because the old system has been there for a while, but I don't think clearly if IDX goes if that changes massively, I think a lot of these are built on the idea of that several things. One, that the IDX is going to be in place, and two, the buyer broker commission is going to be there, and three, that pocket listings will go away, because that's the other thing that the DOJ was like, I don't like the whole idea of restricting supply to.
Pocket listings aren't going to go away.
Pocket
listings
back.
are going to come back,
right? Because it's restricting consumer choice,
right?
They don't like that because the consumer cannot see all of the supply, and that they need options, and you can't put parameters on the consumer. And in the current model it is, and that's why we expect there to be lots of change. I mean, it's just like it's a shit show out there. Sorry.
I think, don't apologize. I say shit too.
Okay.
Let's go to EXPCon in Vegas. Actually, we're at EXPCon in Vegas right now as we're airing this podcast.
Absolutely.
And so we might even have, it'll be interesting to see how a national brokerage conference differs from the Inman style conference. And I can't wait to come on in a week to chat with our listeners about it.
Yeah. I mean, EXPCon, I definitely think is going to have a different tone.
You mean because Mario Lopez is there at the Black Tie Awards Gala that you got to buy a suit for? Or that Vanessa Williams is going to be the keynote?
To buy a suit for that?
You can rent one, but I just found out that it was a black tie affair.
They'd say that because realtors don't dress up.
Are you going to wear a tie?
I don't think I'm going to.
Like polo.
Yeah, no, I'm going to.
What are we going?
Flip-flops.
Flip-flops?
Oh.
You going flip-flops to a black tie affair?
They're not. I mean,
that'd be different.
We
You'd
paid
stand
for
out.
a ticket. I mean, I'm going to dress nice and I'm going to be presentable, and I don't know that it's going to. I mean,
we're not going to have mohawks.
I don't know.
No.
I mean, I have a jacket. Does that count as a suit?
I think that we should go to the costume store and freaking Dumb and Dumber this thing, man. like, let's go. I'll go baby blue if you want to go orange, or I'll go orange if you want to go baby blue. Like, we need ruffles on our shirts and canes with top hats. That's black tie, bro. Can't wait to come to all of our listeners and talk. Do it. If you want us to attend a black tie affair dressed as Lloyd
it's
Christmas.
probably too late because it already happened.
Oh, shoot. That's right. All right. We'll let you know how it went. Thank you guys for listening. Reach out to us if you got questions.
Happy Thursday.